This is a very tragic photograph of a young man, with brilliant potential, and I'm sure most of you are familiar with the story. He died with a blood alcohol between 3.9 and 4.5. And if you can drink high concentrations of alcohol faster, then you can eliminate it, and you don't get sick and pass out before you get sick and eliminate some of that alcohol, you will die of alcohol poisoning. And that's what happened to Carson Starkey. And I'm going to take you through a little scenario. So we're going to swap shots of whiskey, sitting across from each other. And sadly, this happens all the time. So we power down a couple of shots of whiskey, and our blood alcohol gets to 0.1. 0.08 is the legal limit for driving. And at about 0.05 to about 0.08, that's the sweet spot. That's where we feel really good. That's where we've got the dopamine really working. It feels great. No worries. But we're out to really get drunk, so we're going to take a few more drinks. And the reason we feel so good at that 0.1 is that the alcohol has decreased the activities in the inhibitory centers of our brain. We've all got these centers that are worried about the exam tomorrow, or worried about the check coming from mom and dad for the rent, or whatever. And alcohol at those low doses turns off those centers, and it's like, no problems. We feel great. We're funny. We laugh. We sing. We dance. Just feel great. But we're going to keep on. We're going to keep on drinking. A couple more shots, and we get to 0.2. So the alcohol works from the top down. So we started with the cortex, and now we've dropped down, and we're going down to the cerebellum, lower in the brain. And so at 0.2, we start to have the cerebellum affected. The cerebellum is the balance, your balance center, your coordination center. That's where you're going to stagger if you take a field sobriety test. That's if you try to touch your nose, you miss it, because the cerebellum is being suppressed by 0.2 alcohol. But we're not going to stop there. We're going to go right on ahead and power three more shots. We're going to get to 0.3. At 0.3, the alcohol is now moving down to the more primitive parts of the brain, down to the brainstem. The brainstem is consciousness. So that's where we pass out at about 0.3. I was lucky all through my drinking career in college, because I always got sick before I passed out, and I always threw up alcohol, so I never got to 0.35 or 0.4. But there's a lot of individual differences, and especially if you drink straight whiskey, high concentration alcohol. Okay, so 0.3 you pass out. But if you had 3 or 4 shots more before you passed out, and that blood alcohol keeps getting higher, you get to 0.4, and that gets the really basic brainstem functions: respiration, heart, blood pressure. So basically what happens is people stop breathing. And once the respirations have stopped, we have about 3 minutes before anoxia sets in, acidosis sets in, the heart goes into VFib. You guys have all seen that on ER, and death occurs.